What we can't answer is, why is there anything?
Right.
Why did anything ever exist? And if there was no thing with a beginning, would that be something? On a scale of 1 to 7,
right.
7 being utter certainty that there is no God, I'm a 6.9.
Anything you want to say by way of intro for this clip?
Yeah, Jeff's a hilarious comedian. Of course, Bill is a famous skeptic, but Bill says some really interesting things about Jeff's faith and about Christianity, and especially at the end, he says something about his desire for God that I thought was really fascinating.
Interesting. Okay, let's do it.
I mean, we all come from Lucy. Not the one with Ethel, although she was almost as old. I mean the one.
Wait, where was Lucy found? Where in Africa?
Yeah, East Africa. All of it's in East Africa. That's where man developed. Lucy is about 2.5 million years old, about 4 foot tall, female, and stood pretty upright, So 2.5 million years ago, we had an ancestor who was 4 foot tall and stood upright and, was was well on her way. I say, you go, girl. I mean, I know that's not what is in the Bible. I hope I haven't.
Again, I'm a Christian and grew up in a Christian home. At the same time, I have those beliefs, and I appreciate when people respect people that can have faith. And that's what I was saying about you and
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Tyson, yeah. Is that I've been interested in, I downloaded one of his books the other day, and it just seemed like he tempered that a little bit. And, I don't know the truth. Nobody knows the truth.
Well,
nobody knows it yet.
I can't speak for him. I can only speak for me when I say I'm always with Richard Dawkins, one of the most famous atheists, when he says on a scale of 1 to 7,
right.
7 being utter certainty that there is no God, I'm a 6.9.
Right.
That's what I mean, who knows where it all began? I mean,
right.
I've been following the...
And see, something like that for me, I'm fine with that. That's your right to believe that, and that's what drives me crazy about the left. As you talked about before, they shove it down, and if you don't believe the way we do, then you're an idiot.
So no, I'm not saying that. But Bill O'Reilly, speaking of Bill O'Reilly, once I don't think this was in a debate with me, but again, it's tough to remember the past. It could have been, but I think it's just something he said when he was contesting people who don't have faith or believe in God, and he said, "The moon, how'd it get there? How'd it get there?" Which I thought was like the low end of your kind of argument if you're going to make them. Because first of all, we know how the moon got there.
Right.
We don't know questions beyond that. The moon, I can answer that one.
Right.
It's a piece of a planet that maybe ours that broke off and got smoothed out over the billions of years, by the universe.
Right.
Whatever. Okay. And it's so great that we went back because it's going to get us a lot. But
oh, come on, it's fun.
it is fun.
It's great.
It's just another thing for rich people to do.
No.
But okay.
We have to do that.
But the question, the moon, how did it get there? We can't answer that. What we can't answer is, why is there anything?
Right.
Why did anything ever exist? And if there was no thing with a beginning, would that be something? It's just ridiculous. Your brain is never going to comprehend this.
Right.
So some of us just let that go.
The Kalam lunar argument is probably not the best argument for everything, but where did everything come from? That's an actual really good argument. The Kalam cosmological argument is a good argument, and he's sort of hinting at this here. And why is there something rather than nothing? That seems to point more convincingly towards a God, and I'm glad he's willing to at least admit that.
But I just find it to be fascinating that Maher is sitting here kind of poking at that idea, like the universe isn't an explanation of itself.
Yeah.
It isn't a satisfying intellectual thing to just say, yeah, the universe is just here. He's actually not saying that. He's saying where does it come from? Well, I don't know.
And he says it's ridiculous to say that you do know. And well, watch what he says next.
Okay, yeah. I was going to ask you at the end.
Yeah.
Right.
And we think that people who make up stories about why things are are just making up stories to make them feel better. But if it does make you feel better, I'm not going to, I believe in good health. If that makes you feel healthy, if putting your head on the pillow at night, knowing if I die in my sleep, I'll go to a better place.
Right.
I kind of wish I had that.
Well, see, that's a reasonable. All those things you just said is very reasonable, and that's why I appreciate sitting here with you now and talking to you. And
Yeah.
25 years ago,
25 years ago was all about the sex. You know that.
Everybody said there, I wish that I had that. And I think maybe this is where he is having this conflict, is his head and his heart are in conflict, right? In his head, he thinks it's all ridiculous. He thinks it's a joke. He thinks we're all just making this up. But his heart is going, there's got to be something more to life. There has to be something more to existence than everything that we're seeing here. And what I would encourage, Bill, is to say, don't just throw your hands up and say it's ridiculous. Maybe put down the smoke. Maybe put down the marijuana for a second and just actually read some Christian philosophers and theologians who have actually given some really deep thought to this, who actually have a pretty coherent story for how the world came to be the way that it is, and maybe even pick up scripture that tells us the truth about God and who he is and how he made everything. And you might find it's a lot less ridiculous than you think.
There are plenty of unsavory characters in the world, and most people don't realize some of the risks associated with the internet age. The fact that your name, your email address, your home address, your phone number, even sensitive information like your health data or your location history are collected and stored and then sold on the internet. I've heard this talked about before. You probably have too. I didn't realize how bad this is until I experienced it firsthand a few years ago, where I ran into some of these very same unsavory characters. I'm now using something called Incogni, which is a service that tracks down which of these databases have your information and then legally requires them to remove it. Incogni handles all of the tedious paperwork and requests for you, and once things go through, you definitely notice the difference. Fewer spam calls, less junk emails, and a lot more peace of mind knowing that you're basically more private on the internet. So if you're tired of being the product, check out incogni.com/dose of wisdom or use promo code Dose of Wisdom for 60% off an annual plan. Again, that's incogni.com/dose of wisdom or promo code Dose of Wisdom.
One other thought is the way that he frames it as just making up a story to create a feeling of completion or satisfaction is just not how reasonable thinking is done. And it's not the way that Christians arrive at God either. There's obviously, I think for both of us, we can talk about a direct first person experience of God, which honestly, that shifts the entire conversation. But if I'm thinking purely in terms of rationality, reason, or philosophy, that's just not the way that God is arrived at as a hypothesis. Rather, it's something like a whodunit case. So like the case for ultimate reality was, what is ultimate reality? What is the explanation of reality as we experience it? And you start to look around and say, is that ultimate reality? No. Why not? Well, it's contingent. Well, what about that? And you're looking for the non-contingent thing, and it's a process of elimination. And then you're looking for explanations for all the things, right? Morality, consciousness, truth itself. You're looking for an explanation, and you look at all the things that get disqualified as a good candidate for ultimate reality. And as you go further down that list, you realize that all these roads are stopping you at some kind of a dead end. Even something like a Platonic form or mathematics or something really doesn't have causal power, is really not a good candidate for ultimate reality. And then you're sort of left with, and this is again purely philosophically, but what if there is one unifying principle that would then make sense of everything else downstream? What if God is sort of like the word that we're using to say that we are a certain way, we have conscience, and we have, we can love, we can reason. There's something about us that is a clue to ultimate reality, something within ourselves. What if we're not emergent from the bottom up as a mere byproduct of, physics and chemistry, but what if our nature, our quest for truth is pointing us towards someone who we are a mere shadow of? What if we're in the image of a creator who is far and above the creation? And so I think that that's more so the way I'm familiar with Christian reasoning. Is you're kind of working back in a legitimate way to try to make sense of the human experience and to make sense of reality as we know it. And you realize nothing else actually checks all of the boxes. Every road leads with a dead end, and the only way to actually come up with a worldview that is a complete worldview is to say, what if these aren't dead ends, but what if all of these roads connect at a source who himself is the explanation for every other thing?
And I don't think we have to say that we don't want that to be true. I think there is something in our hearts that cries out for that. But I think that's what we would expect if it is true, if God has designed us this way. But I like what C.S. Lewis says too, is, the gospel is not the religion that any of us would have made up, right? We would have made up something that, gives us the power, gives us the authority, gives us the control, instead of something that says, we are sinful and we need a savior and we need to die to ourselves, pick up our cross and follow Jesus. So, I just think there's so much more here for Bill and for anyone who's listening who hasn't really looked at what do Christians actually believe? What did they actually say that they believe? And I would encourage them to look more into that.
For sure. Is there more to this clip here?
What's it?
I mean, it's a good clip. So I'm guessing, because I'm blind reacting to this, but I'm guessing you're picking this because you kind of hear like you said, two separate intuitions in Bill Maher's mind. Is that essentially one of the main points? You kind of hear him say, I'm basically 99.9% positive there's no God, and yet I don't have an explanation for anything. Yeah. It's almost like, I think it was Charles Templeton, who is Billy Graham's preaching partner, who became an atheist, and he famously, had this kind of tirade against God, and for years claimed this, but then he said, I miss him. I miss Jesus. Wow. And those are those competing intuitions. That's really interesting. Cool.